What have been some of those feel-good moments where it's not necessarily related to money, but maybe it's related to a client or like a community event that you did or something that maybe you didn't even expect that you'd get really great satisfaction from because you did something good?
Well, in law, the one case that always kind of stands out at me was a gentleman from Willacy County who was going to lose his house. He lived out at Port Mansfield, and he had he was pretty outspoken, and had rubbed some people the wrong way. And interesting, in Port Mansfield, you don't own your property. Back when the land was given to the navigation district and all was created back when it was a long time ago, there was a stipulation that they would never going to sell, and called in fee simple, meaning you own it outright. You could only lease it. And so it's typically like a 30-year lease or so, and it just gets rubber stamped. So it's technically yours, but it isn't. So what they did is they tried to use a provision in the lease that said that if you have a collection of, I believe it was rubbish is the term, those are grounds for canceling your lease. And so when they cancel your lease, they basically just take everything from you.
Your house, your car, everything that's on the property.
Well, not your car, because your car, but obviously your house. Your house, they now basically own it. Your SOL. I mean, you have no recourse. And so this gentleman who, there was an election, he supported very openly the people that didn't win. And so the powers that be went ahead and terminated his lease. He was in court one day with his wife. I was in there as well on an unrelated matter, and the judge was gently explaining to him the ruling. There was a motion for summary judgment that was filed against him by the navigation district. He hadn't filed a response. You've got to file a response. If not, then the judge has no choice, really no discretion, but to grant the motion for summary judgment. The motion essentially is a dispositive motion that means that, you lose. Like the navigation district wins, your case is gone, they're taking your house. And so the judge is gently explaining the effect of her ruling to this man. And he was a big old man, big guy, very, very intelligent. And so she's explaining this to him, and I'm seeing him, and he's in tears, and his wife is in tears, and I'm just like, holy shit, how can this happen? And I had followed the story in the local paper over there, and I kind of knew the backstory. And you know how you have one of those like out-of-body experience moments? I just stood up in this packed courtroom there in Raymondville in Willacy County. And I said, Your Honor, I said, out of the blue, I'm still like, what the hell? I said, Your Honor, I said, could I have 5 minutes to speak to this gentleman? I said, I might be representing him on a pro bono basis. And she looks at me, and everybody's like, all the attorneys are like, what the hell is wrong with you? And part of me is like, yeah, Ryan, what the hell is wrong with you?
Paper shuffle, like, what's going on?
Like, what's going on here? What's going on? And so we go out into the hall, and he's kind of like, what's this all about? And I'm just talking to him, and I'm like, well, let's see if I can maybe help you with this.
Let me just make sure I'm understanding this story right. You are in the room, and what you're in the room for has nothing.
No, I have my own matter that I'm there for.
So this was just like you just.
I'm just sitting there listening, watching the show, yeah, and just feeling for this man. And I'm just thinking, like, this sucks, man. How's this guy gonna, and I recognize you're losing it on essentially a technicality. Why? Because you didn't file a response. If you'd have filed a response, we probably would have denied the motion and everything would have been cool. So you're losing it like that.
Because he just didn't know.
Because he didn't know. Because he was representing himself.
He didn't understand.
He was representing himself, exactly. So he didn't have the money to hire a lawyer. So we go in there, and we go out in the hall, and I'm talking to him, and he says, I'll never forget this. He says, at the end, he says, so, well, how much are you going to charge me? He's like, 'cause I ain't got a lot of money. And I said, sir, I'm not going to charge you anything. And he goes, well, shit, I have that in both hands. And I was like, so we go into the courtroom. I walk in there. Right, Your Honor, Ryan Solis for Mr. Banyai asking for a continuance. Continuance is denied. Come back at 1 o'clock. We're going to argue the motion. I said, all right, cool.
You're kidding me. And then that's when the gavel went down. And
yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy.
So we go in. And the judge calls us into chambers, and opposing counsel's I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, so we go into chambers and then we come back at 1:00. We go in at 1. I make my argument. I know that the judge is going to grant the motion because she has no choice. I file a motion for new trial. Eventually she grants the motion for new trial, which opens everything back up again. And we actually wind up going to trial, and we won. He got the house. He was able to keep the house, everything else. Jury came back in like 20 minutes or so and ruled in our favor. And the theory was it was a 14th Amendment selective enforcement, essentially, is in that similarly situated people are not being treated the same. Because at Port Mansfield, there's several people that have rubbish and whatnot in their yards, and they're not persecuted, they're not targeted, they're not gone after. The reason why he was targeted was because he had spoken out against some people.
Political. It was a political
deal, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they're basically like, we'll silence this guy and get him the hell out of here. He wasn't originally from Port Mansfield. He'd come to Port Mansfield after a hurricane in Galveston, and came down and
it's kind of
he was a very misunderstood guy.
Individual.
Yeah. But very intelligent man. And so anyway, that was a very long-winded answer.
Man,
but
awesome.
that was professionally probably one of the more fulfilling cases that I've ever had. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy nothing more than delivering to people. Again, especially people who find themselves, kind of the David and Goliath. Mm-hmm. If they're battling against a company, a lot of our cases right now, our accident cases. Mm-hmm. If you've got a company or you've got an 18-wheeler that hits somebody, mm-hmm. well, now this person doesn't have a car. How are they going to get medical treatment? How are they going to pay their bills? All that other stuff. So again, I just love the idea. I love the ability to step in between them and be like, nah, I can provide a voice for this person. It doesn't matter how big or how much money you have over here, because the courts basically provide an even playing field for everybody.